Ann Cornick from Paint and Porcelain. I'm here to help beginners get started in China painting and keep those who have been painting a while interested. But in addition, I'm here to show those of you that have never China painted what it is, what it's about, and hopefully you'll find that it might be a very interesting hobby for you. So I'm just going to check here. Today we're going to be doing, today we're going to be talking about everything I learned at the Indiana school as far as tips and tricks. And I'm going to show you pearls because that was the one thing I came away with that I think I could easily share, and it would be something that everybody would benefit from. Now, I'm no expert. I'll tell you that right now. I learned from Susan Thumb. She is the expert. Most of the time, I got my shadow on the bottom too big or the reflected light too big. And so I had to keep adjusting it. I learned how to adjust it, but you know how it is. You go to do something and then your arms or legs or hands just don't cooperate with you. And no matter what I tried, you know, it was at the end, it was the last thing you do on the piece. And I think we were all very tired by then. So I'll show you my piece. These are the pearls. Now the pearls at the top have two fires on them. The pearls at the bottom have one. And you can see the pearls at the top are darker and more well-rounded, and that's because of the two fires. So I'm showing you what I did at the school, and it took me 3 days to do this. And it has 3 firings on it. I want to tell you though, if you take from Susan Thumb, or even if you don't, I guess you can order these from her. This is the study that I worked from for this tray. Do you see how detailed it is? Here, let me come up close. It's just beautiful. And one of the reasons, I mean, these are the best. This is the study I got from her is the best study I have ever gotten. And it's on this shiny paper. Here, let me, hang on here. See, can you see? It's like a glossy paper. I don't know if it looks real glossy, but it is. It's a glossy paper and it's a heavy paper. And she also gave us, now on this piece, there's shells, there are pearls at the bottom. She also gave us this with pearls on it. And then she gave us her drawing. If you get a chance and you want to try any of these shells or underwater creatures that Susan does, order from her. So it's right there for you if you're interested in ordering any of these. And I got another study from her that's bound. Look at that. Let me show you the pictures in this. This is totally amazing. Look at that picture to work from. And then on top of that, she even has like a decal or a decal that you can use. So I can't say enough about the class. She was a wonderful teacher. Alrighty, so let's talk about some of these tips that I learned. Well, the first tip that I learned was that she said, I told her that when she uses raised paste on this, see right here, this is all raised paste, and these little dots in between all of the pearls are all raised paste. And I said, well, once in a while, I have a problem with raised paste sort of pinging off. And I don't use non-ping, which is the raised paste that doesn't ping off, or the enamel. I don't know if it's an enamel or raised paste. But anyway, and they didn't sell it there. So she suggested that if you have tin oxide, add a very small amount when you're mixing up your raised paste, and it will strengthen it so it doesn't pop off. Another one was she uses a magnolia, which is a color that she gets. I don't know if she gets it from DBA's. This is magnolia. Can you see it there? It's not a white. It's not not an ivory. It's kind of in between. It's a kind of a glaze, and she uses it on her china to get rid of the white space. So she doesn't like to see white china. I do. She doesn't. And so anywhere she has white china, she will mix up magnolia and use it. Now, if you want to see how it comes out, the best example I can give you is right here on this shell. That's one that first coat was Magnolia. Also on this shell, the first coat was Magnolia. And I think on this, the first coat was Magnolia. So you can see it's very pretty, but not easy to find. So that's one of the tips that she had. Another thing is, and I thought this was really interesting. I never heard anybody say this before. She said, make sure, she uses a lot of colors that have gold content for painting. And I said, well, how do you know it has gold content? I mean, I know, you know that the purples do and the rubies do and that kind of thing. But she said, no. She said, if the paint is really dark, so even rich brown, a forest green, a dark green, a blue black, any of those colors, she can also considered having very minute but gold content. So it's not just the purples and the rubies and the pinks, it's also any color that is super, super dark. And she uses a lot of them, but she uses them lightly to add a richness to her paintings. And if you look at her paintings, the colors are phenomenal. And that's probably one of the reasons why. Okay. Another tip that she gave us was how to mix base for raised gold. Now, I can't mix enamel and get it to string to save my soul. I don't care how many people show me, enamel is just something I can't use. So I use base for raised gold. The base for raised gold she mixed with, I had it right here, MX54. You can get it from DBA. If you just query DBA China or porcelain, you can find it that way. And what she did was she basically just mixed this with the base for raised gold and kept mixing it. And of course, it has a drying agent in it. And so as she mixed it, then she started stringing means, and I don't have any here, but stringing means if you have your paint down here and you mix it, and then you pull up your palette knife, the paint should come with it, like a little string. That's what stringing is. And when you get to that stage, she says it's good. And that's when you use it to put these base for raised gold on. And that's what I did here. And see how it looks like enamel? It's very raised. And here between the pearls. So I found that a good tip, and honestly, it has, I mean, if you run your finger along, you can feel that it's raised, so that's what you want. And it also comes up a little bit softer than it would if you just mixed it normally. Yeah, Joni Van Dyke carries Magnolia. But you know what? DBA does too, because I wrote it. When I got the Magnolia from her, I was just looking at my palette, I wrote down DBA. And that's where she said she got that from, because I asked her while she was giving it to us. Yeah, when you're at a class, be creative. If somebody gives you a color, make sure you write next to it where you got it from, like where they bought it. If you really like it, then you can go get it again. Now, the other thing you may have seen it, I posted this one. I thought it was a really good tip. So on this piece, what we did first was we traced our design on, and we had to cut it up. And it was very difficult to trace. I'll tell you, this is a nice little thing, but with these curved sides, it's a pain to trace anything, especially as you get down in here. And so we traced everything on, and then we started painting at the top. Well, when you paint like this, your hand inevitably gets on the piece. So they told us to put plastic wrap over the piece from about here down and work on one thing at a time. Now, everybody in my group said, oh, we knew that, but nobody ever shared it. And that's why you may know that, but I'm sharing it because I thought it was a good tip. The other tip was Randy's tip. When we got to the end of this, we had about half of it that we still needed to paint, and they wanted to fire. Well, you know, if you trace something on, it's very difficult to if you fire it, you have to retrace it. That's a lot of extra work. And that's what I did. But later on, I learned from Randy, and I have a picture of it here. What he suggested was, hang on, sorry, moving things around here. He found this at Michael's. Now, I went to Michael's yesterday and I couldn't find it. But it's called Crafter's Square Metallic Marker. And it's a 1.2 millimeter point. So it's a very tiny point, but it has to be metallic. And this is what it looks like. And what he does is he then will trace over. He will trace over any tracings he has on the piece, or he will even use it just to draw initially on the piece if he's drawing something. And if it gets fired, instead of being metallic, it goes gray, a very light gray that you can actually paint over. So for those of us that had these, half of this that we still needed to do, we could have had the outlines of these available on there. And that would have saved us a lot of time retracing it. Now, I told him that I have this Sharpie, the metallic Sharpies. Somebody told me a while ago on Paint and Porcelain Exchange that this did gold. It doesn't do gold. So don't, I mean, it does, but when you fire it, it turns black or gray. And he said, oh, well, that's kind of the same principle. But he said, this is an oil-based, and it doesn't say what the other one is that he has here. So this one might be a little darker, and I don't know if you can paint over it. I'm gonna have to experiment with it. Okay, another thing that Susan was very adamant about was that every piece, everything you paint on your piece, not the piece itself, but each one of these shells has some kind of uniqueness, variety, something unexpected on it that will draw your eye. So, for example, this starfish, I think the white, obviously, is that. If you look at this alphabet shell, and I don't know how close I can get there. I got pretty close. You see in the pink and purple there, it has little lines. Normally, you don't have to do that. You know, you think, oh, I don't have to do that. But she said, the more detail you add, the more interest there is, the more people will spend time looking at your piece. So even with this, we must have added a million different colors to that. With this, look at the detail in there. And one of the things that she did that was a very simple detail was the black around the outside. She had us take our very fine wipeout tool like this and just scratch in it so it had a little interest. So each one of these, this, look at the detail there. She had me take dark brown and go under the edges on the third fire to add more depth. So that just gives you an idea of what she was talking about. Adding depth to everything on your piece. So it's not just the overall piece. She's saying every item on there should have some detail. Okay, and the last thing was we painted with mineral spirits. And I've used mineral spirits before. I was surprised. I actually had a little better luck cleaning my brush with them this time. I don't know why. It might have been because she told us to use an open medium. And I used mineral oil. And when she came to me, she said, what medium are you using? And I said, I'm using mineral oil. And she goes, oh, do you really want to use mineral oil? It might run. And I said, well, you know, for years, I had a teacher that was allergic to everything, and we painted with mineral oil. So I'm pretty confident that if I keep it dry, I paint very dry with it, it won't run. And it didn't. The other thing, though, that surprised me was look at the vibrancy of these colors. I think that was from the mineral oil. I think that colors are clearer and more vibrant when you paint with an open medium. The other, and I use Terpenoid Natural for most things because I really like the fact that it's a semi-dry, semi-closed medium. But I think I will use mineral oil on occasion, more often now. But you know me, I switch all the time. So don't pay any attention to me. Find something that works for you. But If you try mineral oil, don't stand the thing up like this the first time because it will run if you're too oily. Lay it flat and fire it and see if it runs at all, because it can still run even if it's flat. And then, you know, get used to painting with it before you try any pieces that you'd really be upset about. But I used it and on this, and I was very pleasantly pleased. So now we're going to talk about pearls. Oh, nope, I need the piece again. So there are two things with pearls. As I said at the beginning, these pearls have 2 fires. These pearls have 1. They need a second. They need the depth added back in, it fired out. And the other thing you should note is, and this was really cool. So see how long this is? I have to come way back here. She took a pencil because up here, the shadow on the pearls is on this side, meaning the light's coming from this side, right? She took up a pencil or well, she took something longer than this, but I'll use this, or a brush, and she set it where the light was coming from. And then as we went down the piece, she followed it. And see down here at the bottom, the shadow is under those pearls. Up here at the top, the shadow is on the side of those pearls. So I thought that was an excellent tip too. You can use it even on a round piece. I'm going to demonstrate the pearls on here. And if they're up here, you decide where your light source is. And then you can do this and you can see where your shadow should be. So I really thought that was kind of a neat trick, and it worked really well because the 2 things I had a lot of trouble with were the shadows underneath the pearls and the reflected light at the bottom of the pearl. So let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, this is her, this is actually Susan Thune's pearl, blown up a million times so you can see it. Okay, this is the shadow, and you see how when she added the shadow, she added it so it's a little thicker in one spot and thinner in the other. This is the reflected light, the smile at the bottom. I made mine too big all the time, all the time, all the time. On top, she had like a light source, and this is my light source. And then she had, under that, she had some depth. So that's how she made her pearl. Now, let me show you the steps that were involved. And I'm going to put you down. Before I do, she used these. These are earplugs. And we dipped them in. The colors that she used for this were like either a gray of some sort, a shadow gray, a dove gray, a silver gray, might be a little light, but you could use it. Then halfway through, and I'll show you on here, so in case you don't see it on my palette. So she had, this is like a dove gray, okay? Actually, it was shadow gray, that's what she used. And then she put black on her palette, on her tile. And she mixed the black and the shadow gray till she got just the right color. And that's when she added this, the darker color on there. The bottom, the dark color on the bottom, that brown that you saw in this picture, because this picture's better, is actually Portrait Dark Brown. It's her favorite color in the whole world, Portrait Dark Brown. It's not easy to find. I must have every color known to man. And honest to God, I don't have Portrait Dark Brown. I'll show you what it looks like. This is it right here. So that's Portrait Dark Brown. And this over here is like rich brown. So see the difference? It's a lot more grayed. It's okay. I think you could use a hair brown, maybe get the same effect, but, or I actually ended up a lot of times using the dark brown and getting that effect. So, the rich brown. So I don't think you need to run out and get Magnolia or get Portrait Dark Brown. I don't think that's necessary. But just so you know, if you're curious what she uses, that's what she uses. I'll talk about how I adapted it because we had to do so many on here. And the spacing is kind of difficult. So I felt, she said do one pearl at a time. I'm sorry, but I couldn't get the gist of it easily from one pearl at a time. So what I did was I did maybe 4 in a row, just so that I knew how far apart they needed to be and how they would relate to each other. The one thing that I did have a lot of trouble with the pearls was just trying to get them all oriented correctly. And this wipeout at the top for me was difficult. I have these, oh, wrong place, hang on. I have these pointed Q-tips, and I found that they worked very well just to wipe out that wipeout at the top. And sometimes I could put a second wipeout next to it. Let me show you here. This is the picture of what she did, and she put like a little second one next to it. And I could do it easier with this than with a brush. So this is my crutch that I use. Oh. So what we started out doing was we took these little ear pluggy things, and I'm going to put on my tile next to me, right here, I'm going to take and put a bit of my shadow gray so you can see it. Right here. And I'm going to bring over a little black because I'm going to need it later. Just put it next to it there. Okay. Alrighty. So I'm going to start out by just taking this and twisting it in that shadow gray. And I'm going to test it on there. You can see I have enough on there. And then I'm going to decide where I want to put it on here. Normally, I would have it kind of blocked out, and I put it down and do a quarter twist. And I do several at once because I just think it helps with the spacing. I can't see, that's too far apart. So then I can wipe it off and go back and do that. I've got a little too much on that one corner, so I'm going to dab it on my towel, and I'll do one more. Yeah, that one's a little far apart too, so let's wipe him off. And let's put one a little closer. Yeah, these are not easy to get close enough. Then I'm going to take my number 2. I think it's a 4, sorry. And I'm going to dip it in. Now, I told you, in the class, I used mineral oil. So I'm using mineral oil. Would I recommend it for everybody? No, I wouldn't, because mineral oil can be very difficult and can run. So play with it on something you don't care about first. And then what I want to do is smooth this. Just smooth it. Give it a nice smooth coat. I got to get this off of here. I'm going to turn it around this way. Let me see if it's still there. Yeah, it's still there. And I'm going to smooth this side. Oops, that's not going to work, is it? Let me take my Q-tip and just lift that extra paint off. There we go. Okay. I'm going to go back like this now and just paint. Smooth, 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 smooth. And to smooth, many of you know you need to go, I'm close up on my brush. You need to go further back on your brush, and that gives you a smoother, there we go, see? Now right here, I don't know if that's what that is, but I'm going to use my Q-tip and just sort of round him out. And right here, he could use a little rounding. There he goes. All right. Then after that, my light is coming from this way. What you need to do is decide where your light is going to be on your pearl. And I'm going to put now you can do your pearls in any colors, by the way. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to put one there, I'm going to put one there. I'm going to flip this over and put one here. And notice they're changing a little bit because the light is changing a little bit. Okay. Then I'm going to take a little bit of my black that I have here and mix a little bit of the blue with it. And make it a little, oops, that's too much blue. And just make it a little darker. And clean my brush, and I'm going to pick it up with a side load. Okay. And then I'm going to flip these around. And the reason I flip them around like this is because when I put my side load on, I want the darker part, I think, up closer to the top. Hang on, here we need to get a little darker. And I just find that if I flip it around, it's a little easier to do that. That's just me. I don't know if you can see it real clear, but I'm putting my dark on. Should be a little darker. Come on, Ian. And in this case, I think it's this plate. It's German. It should be pretty good, but for some reason, it's giving me a little bit of a hard time here. Okay. I'll put the dark in there. Trying to put the dark across. Come here. Don't let that paint build up on you, if you can help it. I'd like to just do it and leave it, but there, 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 there. That's not too bad. Okay. Now this is the part that's the hardest for me, is to put the little smile on the bottom. Okay. I'm just going to round them out. A couple of these aren't rounded out appropriately. And for that, I'm going to use the smallest wipeout tool I have. And I want it to be more on this side, a little less on that side, but it still has to be a smile. And like I said, this for me was one of the hardest things. You have to really... there we go. Am I getting in my own way? I am. Sorry about that. Now, I wiped it out there, but what I found, and this is just me, is that if I put the dark underneath, the shadow underneath, it's easier to wipe out that smile. So I'm going to get I have this, which is my fine liner. I like my fine liner, and I will use the portrait so you can see what the color is. And I put that underneath here. I always end up having to... Now here I haven't wiped out, so I'm just putting that underneath. I almost think sometimes it's easier just to put it underneath before you wipe it out than later. Because then when you wipe it out, let me show you what happens. I don't want to be in the way, so I'll try very hard not to. I'll try to get down on my... But when you wipe it out, you can see the pearl pop, can't you? Here, for me, it's easier to wipe it out upside down. Come here, you. You can just see that pearl pop. Then I have to go back and play a little with that shadow. That one I think is okay. This one's a little harsh, so I'm going to try to take a little bit of turpentine and try to just wipe it over to this side a little more, and maybe there. Okay. And this one, I'm going to bring a little bit here. Oh, turpentine. Okay. And then I take my Q-tip and just sort of rain it in. I like my Q-tip. I'm sorry, but I do. Now, like I said, this is the hardest part for me, is this part here and putting the shadow underneath. But I think they look like pearls. I'm not too unhappy with them. The best one I ever did was this one right here, that very first one I ever did. I think that turned out the best. But that's just me. I don't think these are too bad. And I can still see a little bit of the brown on here, so I'm just kind of there. Okay. And a little bit of the brown there, and just touch that up. I use my Q-tip a lot. The other thing you can use if you don't have a Q-tip, and a lot of people don't even know what these are, but these are stumps. I love stumps. They're kind of a cardboard that's been wound up, and they take off whatever it is that's there. They have a very fine point initially, and then you have to sand them once they get dirty. But what I like about them is they take everything off and they don't leave a lot of after junk. So that's how you do a pearl. Do it, and this is what they look like. And this is what they look like on my dish. So now, what would I do with them? They might look really cool with roses on Christmas ornaments. They look pretty on boxes, kind of draped over the top, maybe down around the side. There are a lot of things you can do with them. You just sort of have to start thinking about them. And I didn't think I would enjoy them, and I did, but there were a lot of them. So also pace yourself. Think about what you need to do, and you know, how many you really need on the box. Maybe try to plan it out ahead of time. You can take this and just, you know, do a quick and dirty just to see how many you're going to do, and then decide, you know, do you need a different pattern or what have you, and that might work for you. In between the pearls, you can do a number of things. Like I said, you can take the MX54 with the raised paste, mix it until it strings, and put that in between. If you have gold and you want a little gold in between each one, you could just put a little dot of gold in between each one. The clasp on this was supposed to be gold. I really didn't have any gold, so I used, where is it here? See? There, and then down here's the other end of it. There. I used yellow brown. It's not as nice as it could be. It could be much nicer if I used liquid bright. And pick up those brushes, keep painting, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.